Yeah, yeah, man, Marcus Visionary. Watch on, man. And you don't know the real general.
Welcome to the Marcus Visionary podcast. And today we have a very, very special show. I'm here with one of my most consistent friends I've had inside or outside of the music business. He inspires me, gives me advice. He's never changed from the time I've met him. He's also one of the hardest working DJ producers on the scene. And I'm very thankful to have him as a friend and a colleague. How you doing, ARIES?
Hey, bro, big respect, man. Oh, that was very blessed. Very nice words there, mate. Thank you, thank you. But no, everything's good, man. How you been? Everything well?
Yeah, man, everything's good. Just actually, I took the month of January off because, I've been after the holidays, things have been hectic. I was in the studio all the time, and then the gigs were pretty heavy from March because we only opened from March till,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You guys have been open
yeah,
longer than us, so, and you've been
yeah.
super busy. Your calendar was out of this world last year. I actually looked at your calendar and I thought, how does he do that? You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
shocking to me. Um, Last year was quite tiring, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was a big year. I mean, tiring to the point where it has really been just concentrating on the label work and shows and stuff. The production and making music has been, I've still been doing bits, but not to the level that I'd have liked to have been, just purely because of time.
Right.
Really been enjoying doing all the shows and what we've been doing and getting the music back on road, which is what we're all about, is the DJing. So, but yeah, it's been a very busy time, mate. We've been on it, and yeah.
We're going to take it right back to your history. But for now, I want to say congratulations because I know Born on Road has just won Drum and Bass Label of the Year, right?
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, a mad
Yeah.
one. Yeah, we've been really pushing hard with the label in recent years, and yeah, that's happened. We couldn't quite believe it, to be honest.
I've seen how hard you guys work and I know how much actually time you put in. You step back from production even just to focus on the label and having like
Yeah,
such a huge roster of incredible new talent and constantly bringing people in. And one of the things I admire about Born on Road, which we're going to get into even later, but is that you guys do the full circumference of the sound from jungle to all the different types of drum and bass. And for me, who loves it all,
yeah,
that's
you
one of
do.
the things I love the most about Born on Road.
Yeah, we
Okay.
love it all, man. It's all about all the different strings and all the different sounds and stuff. We like music, but we like it with that little bit of spice and a bit of flavor on top, kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's
man.
definitely where it's at. And obviously, we DJ,
Yeah.
so and we like to play all different styles, and we find ourselves in different DJing environments where different music works, as you do yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of it's about. So I think that playing music and the record label for us is quite a connected thing for sure. Well, it definitely is, 100%.
All right. Well, we're gonna take it right back to the beginning. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a place called Stourbridge. I
Hmm.
grew up with a small culture there of music that was connected to the closer cities, but also doing its own thing as well. I grew up. I was born in the 70s. I started liking music probably in the 80s through my family and through my
Hmm.
brother as well,
Hmm.
liking different stuff as well.
Yeah.
And then late 80s, but by 1990, we started doing pirate radio. So my
Yeah.
friends got in the year above me at school, because I was like 13 years old. The year above me at school had got an FM radio transmitter because he was quite into electronics,
Okay.
and had set up an FM radio transmitter in his parents' loft. And we basically, he was like, we were doing radio there. So the end of 1990, we were playing like chart music, like 7-inch record vinyl from the shops in town where like all sold records, like it's like Woolworths at the time and Our Price and these different record stores, and we would just buy music that we liked. And then I started listening to other pirate radio around the same time, because the pirate thing was the cool thing about it, really. You know,
Yeah. Mm.
all the underground music was on the pirates, because obviously like commercial radio stations were playing just purely commercial music, and there wasn't any underground stuff apart from pirate. It was a whole thing. So I heard rave music through that, and that was like, I was like, wow, what is this? What's that? Wow, like I suppose like bleepy techno, 120 BPM kind
Yeah.
of Sheffield sound, kind of like that
All the
bleepy
warp
stuff
stuff.
with
Yeah.
bass lines and a little bit of breakbeat in there. That was
Right.
really like, you know, that was what I was like, wow, what's this? And then it was from then onwards, we went to the record shops in the city, found the shops to go out and buy those things, listening to Pirates, collecting flyers, and that was it. I was into hardcore at the time, it was called. It was like, it was just starting to be called rave, and it was after Acid House. It was this little.
I was just about to ask you that, because I know, I know we skipped forward quite a bit there. Obviously, England, specifically has had such a big hand in taking like the whole Chicago sound, the acid house sound, and really creating rave. You guys had the Summer of Love. Were you listening to all that acid house music on Pirates in the 80s?
No, I
No.
got into Pirate literally the end of 1990. It was right
Okay.
at the end.
Right.
And that's it. And as I say, it had gone into this. It was at the time they were calling it hardcore.
Right.
Literally, wasn't even really called rave then. The year later, it felt like it was being called rave music.
Yeah.
And then by 92, it was like the next kind of sort of Summer of Love, because it wasn't a Summer of Love, but all the music, all the piano music, all this rave music was suddenly on all the radio stations and suddenly in the top 40 charts and on top of the pops, and have become a phenomenon nationally here in England. Do you know what I mean? So it's like all the kids were listening to it. It wasn't like a niche thing anymore. And, you know, quite an interesting time musically. But that was up at 92. So we were kind of all between that time period of 1990 to 92. Like 91, it was a bit more hardcore.
Did it explode in the way that it did in London, in Birmingham? How big was the hardcore rave scene in Birmingham?
It's actually massive. So, you know, this is an interesting thing, because a lot of the documented stuff is based around different parts of the country. Obviously, very London centric. You know, because that was the front line to a lot of this thing. But obviously, there was the music from all over the country at the same time as well. So there was a lot of artists like Ratty and Tango and Fallout, and there was promoters. There was a big event, a venue called the Eclipse, that was like the first venue to get an all-night like rave license type thing. That was up in Coventry, which is in the Midlands. And then there was like Quest, who were doing bits, and then there was like Amnesia House, which was like they started in 89. So, you know, and loads of other bona fide original promoters and events going on up here. And then all the stuff in London. And then a lot of the London artists were coming up to Birmingham and playing. So we would get all the like main artists up our way as well. There was a place called the Bass Place that I wasn't old enough to go to, but that was where like all the first time you'd get like Carl Cox or Sasha, Groove Rider, Fabio, you know, all those guys coming up from, you know, DJ Rap as well, the girls too, kind of starting there. So there's a whole massive history of the music all over the UK, to be honest, because Sheffield, we mentioned Sheffield a minute ago, they'd got their own thing going on with all the bleep stuff. And then
I know that Bassman obviously is one of the big key figures in Birmingham, and I listened to a lot of his early hardcore tapes, even with Fabio and stuff like that. So was Bassman actually throwing events at that time?
He was resident at that one night that I just said, the Bass Place, where all those first guys came. Right. He was one of the resident MCs there. Right. There was a few MCs that were regular there. I believe Lenny was. Definitely Bassman was. Lenny's another Birmingham legend MC. Used to be on all of those particular raves, like the main guy kind of thing on the night, and that a lot. So but Bassman was on a load of those early nights, so it was probably, and that was definitely like 91, probably even 1990. And you know, he sounded a lot different then, to be fair, as well.
Yeah, he had a different,
I'm sure style. You hear it, the tone of his voice and style of, you know, what he was doing was definitely different to how you probably heard him in the latter part of the 90s.
But you know what? I'm really fond of that whole period from like 1990 to 93, where like the MCs hosted, because the music was so full. You had the pads and the breaks, and I mean that's sort of what's been inspiring me lately to redo the sound and kind of bring that flavor back in. But I love that hosting style. It was sort of before the whole lyrical thing took over.
Yeah, totally. It's I think it's an important part of it as well. I watched some set like earlier in the year at Glastonbury, and it was like really hard techno, but it got like a hardcore MC on, and it was great. Just that whole hosting, almost like a fairground kind of, somebody at the fairground telling the waltzers to go faster or something. You know what I mean? But it was like it reminded me of that style that was that early 90s kind of MCing style in the raves, where there was like not so much of it, but you'd have somebody with a little flow and posting it as well, but they'd still have flows and bars and still have lyrics, and still have the punchlines and that kind of thing, and their famous, quotes or whatever they'd say on the mic, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Taglines.
Did you have a favorite Birmingham DJ from that period?
At that time, and the earlier tapes, when we started getting the rave tapes, like the tapes in the pack, because obviously there was like the pirate thing, but slightly afterwards at school, our friends like were getting rave tapes from their brothers, their older brothers and stuff like that. And I'm going to say DJ Ratty.
Yeah.
I'm going to say DJ Ratty because he was the Midlands legend. He was playing all over the country at all those London raves everywhere, He was like sick at mixing, like ridiculous at mixing. We still listen to Ratty tapes now, and you're like, his vinyl mixing, and it's fast and furious. Bit like Slipmatt as well. Slipmatt, that kind of like, wow. You listen back to those mixes, and you're like, how many have they got? A third deck? Are they doing it so quick? He's not even got time to put his records back in his sleeves. They must be in a pile on the side. Do you know that kind of thing? Because it's but obviously it's that hip hop DJ style turntablism with the rave thing. So those artists, those guys that we just mentioned there, and a bunch of other DJs at the time had that level of integrating
quick mix,
the turntablism, the scratching, and he knew how to drop tunes. All his stuff was like that breakbeat hardcore. They were like on the early jungle techno sound. They were like, their stuff was hot, and obviously they got the camp as well. So he got like Tango, rest in peace Tango, who was like making the sickest, illest tunes at the time, and Ratty DJing them, and then Fallout making sick tunes. She makes the sickest tunes as well.
Yeah.
So you got like a whole little corner over there, fiber optic, like with some of the events, there'd be a fiber optic night, and it'd always be them lot. And they were like Leamington Spa, Crewe, that kind of area, just outside of Birmingham in the Midlands, here in the UK.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that, I'd say Ratty was and like out of London, and what we really liked was Top Buzz. If we're going to talk about MC and hosting, what you were just talking about a couple of minutes ago,
there's that Mad P, man. Right? Yeah, Mad P.
Buzz, Top Buzz, the tunes, that jungle techno sound that they had, the reggae bass lines with the rave fusion and stuff, which is like probably very much the sound that I hear you personally making, like some of that stuff that I would have imagined them to play in the 90s that you're making now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and just the host, and he had them taglines, he had them lyrics that were just like raw, like, and there was some they did some studio tapes, and when they did a couple of 6 studio tapes from that time, that were like ridiculous. Can't think of the names of the tapes, but they're classics, and just every time. So I was listening on my Panasonic personal stereo, like, with my headphones in on the way to school or walking back from the park on the weekend, probably a little bit drunk when I shouldn't have been, or whatever, at a very young age, you know what I mean? Listening to this music, going, wow, I'd love to be in a rave. I wished I could go to a rave. I'm not old enough. Like imagining, because it was like at the beginning, I was 13, 14 years old. So I was like listening to this music and totally consuming it, but unable to go into the rave because of like, I wasn't old enough. It's actually like 93, 94 when I was first going into raves. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was doing it like on the pirate radios. We played loads of pirate radio. We bought the vinyl. We played them on the radio, collected the flyers, went to the record shops on the weekend, listened to the pirates. So we got all of it, but we couldn't get into a dance music club till we're 18.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you didn't have a lot of all ages ones back then in Birmingham.
No,
right.
But we had like discos. So we had there was a couple of under 18 raves at this nightclub that we used to go to, and that was like really early on. That was like 91, so it was still like getting like hip house, and you play like Shut Up and Dance 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah,
you know, and this kind of like it was like dance music crossover. So you get some rave stuff in there, but you get a bit of everything. But the DJ would be playing the record, stopping it, you know, kind of House of Pain, Jump Around, these kind of, it wasn't, I don't even think that tune was played. It was definitely, I remember, Back by Dope Demand, King B. That was a sick tune. 5, 6, 7, 8. But then they'd have some rave stuff as well. T99, Anastasia. That was pretty like commercialized, and you got like LFO, which is a big one at the time, and Tricky Disco, and you know, the stuff that was a little bit more obvious that had probably got into the top 75 at the time, right? Because the music was selling, like the records were selling at that point. So you might not get the rave in the top 40, but if you went and looked at the top 75, you got loads of stuff between 40 and 75 that was selling huge amounts on vinyl, you know?
Yeah. Something special about 1990 to say the end of 95 for me was just, it felt completely different. Even though like 96 was cool, like everything has its, you know, a different feeling, you know, but, that period there, man, there was something so special about it. But also too, like what I was going to touch on, you know, from 92, to say 94, there was like an interesting, because even over here, we were still playing hardcore right till 94. Like through 94, and we were mixing jungle and hardcore together, right? The first time we saw a full jungle set was when Kenny Ken came over. Kenny Ken came over, and that time he played like, you know, Nutta, and he had Dead Dread and, you know, Warning and all that. But over here, because, you know, we were still buying Reinforced, and they were still putting out like hardcore sounding records, and a lot of people were still putting out, so we were getting the mix, so we were mixing still, you know, the piano records and the raga and the dark stuff. It was all, we were mixing it all together. But then we noticed the shift to when the jungle started to really, especially in 93, like a lot of the guys were coming over and you could see the jungle rearing its head. What was that like over in Birmingham? Did you notice the change? Were you like, whoa, what's going on here? Because things did get dark in 93 for a little bit as well.
I actually think it's a lot to do with the drugs and stuff, mate, to be honest with you. And
it went from happy to like
because
darkness,
in 92 it was a very ecstasy fueled thing, and a lot of those tunes that got into the top 40 had ecstasy themes, even in the vocals and the lyrics. It was a thing, like a fashionable thing in terms of music, I suppose, or just part of the culture and the sound. And I believe that the things that were probably mixing with ecstasy and going into the drugs and the heavier drugs, and what was around and what was kind of working, definitely had an influence, you know, an influence on the sound as well. I think the vibe changed in a lot of things. You know, the music had got quite big, as I say, so it had got into the charts in 92, you know, and to some people it was bad, you know, some people it was amazing. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, but I think, I don't know, I definitely feel like that the end of 93, there's like, I like a particular set. It's Dr. S. Gachet, November 93 at the Edge. And it's got like all that dark stuff, all that Terminators on there, and there's so much amazing music. Yeah. See, I don't know, you used to get, you know, like you get Russian music, don't you? That's natural. So sometimes you hear a tune and your hairs will go on end, don't you? Yeah. And all that music, when that first came, and it was all really dark, and Champion Sound and all those really dark riffs, and your shadow boxing come a little later on, and you know what I mean, all that stuff, it's a whole different vibe. So the energy shifted, I felt like it happened in drum and bass in the last few, like when the rollers came and the dark thing came again in the mainstream of drum and bass a few years ago. Felt like it happened again. I kind of felt that same kind of thing. Also happened at like, I reckon 93 that happened. I reckon late 90s it happened again.
Yeah.
Because you got all the hardware sound and all this really metalheads and all those amazing labels bringing through this industrious sound, that reflected those dark, that cold energy. I really like that music as well, but it's definitely an interesting thing how it's gone through those kind of evolutions of sound and what the reasoning for that is. I mean, in the late 90s, we had a criminal justice bill here that come into play that really locked off the whole rave thing. And it's probably quite a different time. So I think different energy was different and the music went dark again. I feel like it probably happened about 4 years, as I say, like 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And there's a whole streak of that again through the sound, that cold sound. And it's a whole vibe, do you know what I mean? But it is quite different from some of the other happier stuff that, the jungle breakbeat with the reggae bass line. And
I feel like in 93, at one point it was like, it got very dark, like super mentasm-y. But then what started to rear its head was a lot more of the ragga jungle started to come out, with the, the rare groove samples, stuff
loads of it,
for the girls. Yeah. And then also to the full vocal ragga stuff started to come out. And then that really culminated big and heavy in 94. That was the year with Code Red and, Fire. And yeah, exactly. Congo Natty, that was the year for Congo Natty, right? You said you started partying, I think, going out 93, 94, right?
Earlier on, we were going out, like I started going out late 93, early 94, and I was hearing stuff like Terminator, those tunes at the raves. Yeah. They were big at the time, and it was kind of like, it wasn't so moody then, but they still kind of had that vibe. But I don't know, it got to about 95 and we were enjoying going to raves, but there was loads of problems in the Midlands at different events and various issues. And because of those issues, violence, guns, stabbing and other crime, people robbing you. We got robbed going to a rave in Birmingham one night on the way. We went to the thing. It was great, a wicked night, but also we got robbed en route in town. People tried to take our shit from us, and that was quite normal in the city at the time, that kind of situation. It got to the point by the end of 95 that, like, you couldn't get any venues because the local authorities were locking off certain music, literally, because at those events there was trouble. So we started going actually down south to the raves. So we were going to things like World Dance in Kent, or we were going down to Milton Keynes in the Sanctuary. And, a lot of my friends were going to like AWOL and different things in London as well. Yeah. Because AWOL was we were getting them tapes. It was like the creme, the top, you want to hear some fresh dubs, you want to see all the new guys and get all those things first kind of thing. It was that platform. So, but when we were going to the big ones, because it was safe, you didn't get the same level of trouble. You didn't get the gang issues and the groups of people that were coming from different areas.
Even though they were so big,
beef with the people, because that was how it was. Yeah. We were all right because we rolled with some people that looked after us and looked out for us. So we were in them raves, but we were with people and we were all right. But if we weren't with those people, we wouldn't have been all right. And that's how it was. But we all loved the music that much. Yeah. That we still went to the raves and we still like that vibe and energy. It was just part and parcel of the culture at the time, and then obviously the jungle thing became a bit of a swear word for promoters, the venues, not the promoters, but the venues. So there was the evolution of drum and bass, which is obviously like the same music essentially. Yeah. And just interpreted in a slightly different way and rebranded in a different way as well. So it was less, and we were going, so late 90s, we were going to a lot more in the Midlands. We're going to techno raves because the promoters that used to put on the big raves for the jungle couldn't put anything else on anymore. So they used to do techno raves and they used to do like throwback raves. So you'd get like a 92 hardcore night, but in the later part of the 90s flashback and things like that. So at them raves, they were all right. They weren't so moody, especially the techno ones. But then in room 2, you'd have like Groove Idea playing at the prototype years when he was doing that era.
Yeah.
And that sound was like, and he had all those Dillinger dubs and all that sound. So we could go to a techno rave. You'd have Jeff Mills to like 2,000 people in the main room in the cathedral at the Q Club. And then in the side room, 200 cap, 300 people watch Groove Idea play, smashing out that, Ronnie Size, because they were promoters that had been doing the game for years. All those artists were like their pals. So you'd always get all those classic, big legendary artists. Do you know what I mean? Just saw them play there. So we were going to a lot of techno raves and doing room 2 to get our drum and bass jungle fix, like in the second part of the 90s in the Midlands. And then like by about 99, it was all right again. Like, so there was like student drum and bass night starting up in Birmingham, a night called Autumn, which was actually called Procession before that. It was called a few names over the time: Breakthrough, Procession, Autumn. But initially it was Procession. And then we get like, we go and see Ray Keith, or when Bad Company were like huge or blew up first, you'd go and see them. But like on a Tuesday night in the Ministry of Sound Club, which was actually in a really nice cathedral in Birmingham. So they opened a club in Birmingham. It was like an old, like little church type venue, not cathedral, but and it was really nicely done out. And that was the new clubbing. It was like a new fashion, a new thing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And we get a school night thing, student E, and it was great. And that was basically from that point, like it was quite safe at all the raves and all the clubs, and ever since. Yeah, that time period, final end of the 90s, it was in a way that the club scene was, you didn't get that moodiness there anymore. Occasionally, wrong place, wrong time, but
yeah, for sure. Right. I mean, it was funny because being over here, right, we never had any of the moodiness. We didn't have those same issues that happened in England. So it was really funny because when the English guys that we would bring over, especially come 96, they were just like, oh, you guys are still on this jungle thing? You know what I mean? And they would have to play more jungly here for literally about 2 years because a lot of the people here, the whole vibe here was that rave vibe. Yeah. Like that, that we were still carrying that 90 to 95 feeling, and the transition into like, when 96 happened and metalheads pretty much took over and, in the prototype years. But I remember we would be asking, because there was no internet back then. So that we would be asking, what happened? And people were so button-lipped about it because they had, the UK scene had created this whole generation of really proud junglists. And we used to wear the banner, like people live the life. Yeah. It was like you were into jungle, right? So when we first got the news, I remember, around 96, because we'd heard, some people were calling it drum and bass even during the jungle years. But when they decided that the music was now officially drum and bass and jungle, people were saying jungle is dead. And a lot of the guys that we would bring over, they were really button-lipped about it. And I guess it was a little bit risky to talk about it. And I think they were a little bit worried, like they didn't want us to know we didn't find out about a lot of the things that happened in London for years.
I was into like No U-Turn and Trace and, these kind of things, and Ed Rush and Optical as they'd started to come through, Ed Rush particularly, not, and then Optical a bit later on. Right. And I was into that really dark sound again that I also liked in late 93 that we'd previously talked about. Yeah. I think the kind of like Mickey Finn and Aphrodite sound at the time I wasn't as into, but now I love it. It's really funny because at the time it wasn't what I was digging, but I dig it all. I also really liked all the intelligent drum and bass that it was called at the time, the pre-Liquid era, where it was a bit more kind of, I was really into all of that as well. I wasn't really like on the mainstream late 90s jump up sound. Do you know what I mean? But then I'd also like, there was like the rollers where you got like the Bassman and Trigger and the kind of pure X sound, 96 to 98, things like you know, I don't know if they were released in that years, but tunes like Trouble,
Right. Yeah.
you know, Lai, the V
Yeah.
classics, the V sound. Do you know
For
what I mean?
sure.
And I think probably out of all of it, it was probably the V sound that was we were really into, because my DJ partner Benny, who runs Collab Recordings with Heist,
Yeah.
he was like really into that sound. It was like a thing. So Planet V would come and do nights in Birmingham, and they come down to Birmingham, and like if there was a Planet V night, it was going to sell out. It was going to be ridiculous, and you know, and we'd all go, and it'd be full of crew there, and they would be sick. So I think, and that, you know, I'm just, time's a bit mad, because so you kind of, it gets a bit blurred, so I can't even remember the exact time period that was, which particular year.
Yeah.
But I went to Fabric the very first night it opened. It's actually the second night. They did a VIP night, and Nigel Benn DJ'd on the Thursday, but then on the Friday they did a massive Planet V, and it was just at the time that Dillinger was working on his album for I believe Pete Tong's label London Records.
Right.
And it was like, so the last set in the main room at Fabric was Dillinger and Lemon D. And both of those, you didn't really see DJ much, particularly outside of London.
Yeah.
And, you know, but all the man them had got those dubs, or a few of them. But it was Dillinger and Lemon D. And we got to this night, they'd oversold on the tickets, I believe, or somebody had touted some fakes, whatever. It was like mad numbers. So we'd only just got in, and there was a ridiculous queue behind us who blatantly didn't get in. And this night was just like 3 rooms actually. You know, you got like Bill Riley, you got like Adam F, you got like all these, just everybody you could think of was on this lineup. Do you know what I mean? At the time, all the Full Cycle boys, you know what I mean? Dillinger, Lemon D, everyone you can imagine. And it was just like ridiculous. And we're supposed to finish at 6, and we're there at like 20 to 7, and the rave's they're still going. I'm like, cool, this is cool. But it was Dillinger and Lemon D, and like, so they'd come on, they're on at like 5 or something. So we thought, hour of that, great. And we're still there at like 20 to 7. You know what I mean? And they're pulling dub after dub, and all these dubs were their own, and they're like road testing them, obviously. Do you know what I mean? For the album, he must have made hundreds of tunes just to get the ones for his albums. Do you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
So it was like, I was digging that stuff. Those are the stronger like musical memories. And then we used to go to Carnival a lot. So we were very lucky that we went from Birmingham with a youth group and stuff. So like I went to Notting Hill Carnival in like 94, and like Helicopter Tune was massive. Deep Blue Helicopter Tune was massive. To the
That's
point,
a big carnival. 94 Carnival is just like for jungle. That was
all the reggae sounds were playing that tune. Yeah. And I was like, this is mad.
So I think both you and I had a very similar interest in sound, you know, with the V recordings, Dillinger, Full Cycle, kind of carrying the torch for jungle.
Man.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously leading up to about 2000, you had the Total Science, Breakage, Digital, you know, you had Shy, and all these guys bringing back those jungle flavors, which leads me to when did you get into production?
Yeah, I got into production probably in the late 90s. I did a BTEC National in sound engineering at college. I did a couple of years there. That was like around the time Dead Dread came out and that kind of era. So 94, 95, I was there. And so I was doing a little bit of stuff, a little bit of C-Lab Notator, which is the pre to Logic, before it was Logic. Plus a few friends had Cubase and stuff like that on their Ataris and stuff.
Right.
Got myself an Atari, got Cubase on the Atari, got a little synth, you know, and just messed around with it at home. I didn't have a setup to be able to record any music as such, you know, but still had a jam with it. But my friend had set up, and we would go around his, and basically towards the late 90s, the PC came.
Yeah.
So once that PC came, everything was in the box, and then you could get a sound card. It was an AW32 sound card, and you were able to load samples onto the sound card.
Right.
So it was like I had the PC with an AW32 sound card, and I was able to load a bunch of sounds onto it. So I got the sounds on there, but one of the things I could put in there was a loop, a drum loop. And then, I could, so I basically was able to piece together a tune in like the really early Cubase. Yeah. So I got Cubase for the PC. And basically it was pre-audio still. I think maybe little bits of audio, but the audio was on the sampler. So I was able to make a tune. So I made this tune, and I actually went and cut it on dub. I got a 10-inch cut of it. And and that was the first one. I've still got the dub. And that was the first one. And then, but a little bit on, I don't know, we're moving on now, like 3 or 4 years with the PC, audio came, and I was messing around, and I made a tune. And I was making different bits, and I'd give it to Heist. Mm-hmm. And Heist had got this tune, and he'd sneakily sent it to Bailey on One Extra. So One Extra was a new radio station, BBC Radio. One Extra was a new radio station at the time.
Yeah.
And Bailey was on there, and he'd sent it to Bailey, and we were on Messenger at the time. I think it was Messenger or AIM, because everyone was on AIM back then. Mm-hmm. AOL Instant Messenger. So we're all chatting, and he hit me up, and he's like, listen to the radio to One Extra now. And it's one of the first internet radio stations, so you could listen on the internet. Mm-hmm. So I plugged it on, put it on, and there's my tune. And then it gets the rewind.
Which tune was that?
And that was Herb Smoke.
Yes. Because we had met around that time. I distinctly remember, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd never finished the tune. I just sent it, and he just sent it to him anyway, without me knowing, which I loved. It was great. Mm. And that was it. He liked the tune, and I got a vibe, and I built a couple more tunes around similar vibes at the same time, and I sent them across, and he played them, and they got the rewind and on his show, and played some of them 3 times, and then all of a sudden now some of them are getting daytime track listed on the playlist on the daytime, like even being played, like Herb Smoke was being played in the background on the news, which is actually kind of uncanny and quite funny.
Massive tune. Yeah.
And they invited us along to go and do. They came to Birmingham when they were doing their tours, their extra bass thing in 2006, and we got invited to that. And so that was as a producer, as ARIES as a producer, that was the beginning of that, really. Yeah. Because before then, I was a different DJ name. I used to be called The Goat.
Oh, for real? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it was just a joke. I ended up on a flyer as a joke name because I just had a big goatee beard. My friend did it. And then I just stayed on the flyers as that name, and that went with me for quite a while. But then when the production thing came, the ARIES thing came, ARIES is, another animal related. Do you know what I mean?
Are you an
ARIES too?
I'm an ARIES. Yeah, Aries Pisces as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So it all connects up. So anyway, that was it. So from around 2003 now, 2004, I'm producing music, and then I'm making different things. They're coming out. I'm sending them to people, and they're liking them, and you're liking some of them, and you're going, can I put this on the flip of my tune and my record label lined up? And and then we were doing a bit of vinyl as well. And I remember at the time you were doing stuff for us. You're on the B-side, the flip of Herb Smoke.
Yeah.
With Sail On. And then a little while down the line, you did a remix of Herb Smoke 2.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was big, little techno, jungle techno-y drum and bassy flip on it.
Yeah, at the time. Chopped up those horns as well. Great horns.
Yeah, man. You got it, mate. Yeah. And the rest is history. And we're speaking of approximately 20 years later, mate. All right.
I know. It's amazing because what people don't know is like around that time, when ARIES was giving stuff to Bailey, I was giving stuff to Bailey as well. And we were all talking at that time because we were there was like sort of that new resurgence of jungle that was happening. And we became, I guess, a really instrumental part of that. And I guess deciding to, I don't know, it wasn't a plan. It was just sort of like what we were making. Like constantly be in touch with ARIES, and the stuff that he was sending me was really jungle influenced. And I had a label called Lion Dubs before I met Lion Dub. Actually, it was on load media distribution through digital before it folded, and we put out Just Like the Rain, which is still to this day one of my favorite tunes by you.
Yeah,
Really nice
yeah,
remix there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, there's that whole period there, and you decided you're going to move from Birmingham to London. What prompted that whole move to London?
Well, at a different time period now. This
Mm,
was probably like we'll go up to 2008. So I've been doing the jungly, the ragged jungle thing for a little while,
yeah.
and then a guy in Bristol, Bevan, who I did Sunny Shining with, Bevan,
Mm,
who's a promoter down this way in Bristol, booked us. It's like, come and play for us. I was like going to play for him, doing the thing. And he's like, oh yeah, there's this guy, Jackie Murder. He does this music. It's like yours.
mhm.
You should link up with him. So, all right. So roll on to like, it was 2008. And I was 7 around this time. And he was like, yeah, you should link up. So I spoke to this guy speaking online. He's like, yeah, all right. And then Jackie come over and he was doing some stuff. He was American guy living in Belgium. His girlfriend was in Belgium at the time and he was living there. And then he's just about to go to Barcelona and he moved over to Barcelona. But around this time, he came over and visited me and was like, we'll get in the studio. So Jackie turned up and we made a tune. And that was like, we had this history and that was where it started. So we were kind of like making similar music. So we made some Ragged Jungle together, finished them, put them out. They came out and it's kind of like, and then he was doing this thing, Chopstick, and I was helping with producing music over there with them.
Yeah.
And bring in Toughest, who's another good friend, part of the crew, and he's like was around as well, and he was living in Barcelona. So Jackie went to Barcelona. I started going over there a lot, and we were back and forth,
Yeah.
and back and forth to Barcelona a lot, just making tunes and vibes in really
I
different
have to say,
lifestyle, but
that was a great period. Like, what people don't know, I would actually come up there. I've been to the studio quite a few times and stay out there with you guys and link up with
yeah,
Toughest. And Benny was playing out in Barcelona a lot for
yeah, a lot.
Fran the Breakstorm. And man, I miss Barcelona. Actually, I'm hoping to get back out there. But man, we had some great times, man, out there. When I look back on those things fondly. You know what I mean? That little Barcelona period. But so your mission with Chopstick started, and I mean, you guys took that really far because you started headlining pretty much all the festivals. You were playing at a lot of the major jungle parties, like from Jungle Mania to like you name it. Like obviously, Rumble in the Jungle and all the companies out in Bristol and so on. That was an amazing run. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Jackie and who else was part of Chopstick at that time.
So yeah, we had that going on. I joined in 2008. Toughest was in the mix as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically for a few years we were doing that, and that moved on to the London bit.
Yeah.
So I can't remember exactly when, but they were going to get a studio in a warehouse in London.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, this is what's happening. We're probably going to have a living opportunity there and we'll live in the studio and blah, blah, blah. And
Mm-hmm.
been in Birmingham a while. I was, it was inevitable. And I kind of just thought, yeah, that's a good idea. Kind of get it out of the way because, culturally, musically, London's a place to go and do, especially if you're into jungle music, right? So, the home. So I was like, yeah, it would be nice to go and be, down there and do the thing. So we went down there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I linked up with Jackie, and there was that time period. There was another guy, Max Power,
Mm-hmm.
who was around a lot as well, our friend Max, and he
Big
was
up Max.
living with the guys out in Spain and
Mm-hmm.
getting involved with all the sessions and recordings. And a little while afterwards, that all came to London. So we went to London, had a studio there, and then there was Alex King Youth, who had studio in a different part of London and was part of the project there to move into this London warehouse. So we all had studio space there, and we're working there for a couple of years. We were there for 2 years, basically like Chopstick HQ kind of vibes, which was really cool. Got loads out of it, and different vibes living like that though in London. So it was okay for a while, but after a while, it was quite a lot to do.
Well, I remember showering in your kitchen, so it was serious things. Yeah, I used to come up there, and I was wondering how long you guys were there for, because I felt like I came and stayed with you guys like 3 or 4 times, maybe even more.
It was a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah,
it was a couple of years, yeah, and then the guys were going to America for different reasons. So they were both going to America and going to go off and visit family. And Jackie was going to go over with his partner, who was going to work there for a year in San Fran. So
yeah,
like it was time to find a different situation. And then I linked up with my boy J-Man, Selector J-Man, who'd been around us for quite a while. Ragged Jungle producer, just like the rest of us, doing his bits from Bristol, and there was a room in his place, and that opportunity came up, and I was like, you know what, just try something different for a bit. So I ended up in Bristol, and then I've been here in Bristol ever since. Rent a studio now, which we're in at the moment, and that's the journey in a roundabout kind of manner, mate.
I was just about to ask you how you got to Bristol, because obviously Born on Road is you, Select the J-Man, Kelvin, Gold Dubs, as the key group. Who else is in there?
Well, we've got Stibbs, who was a core member from right at the beginning, and still does quite a bit of stuff with us. Not so much these days, but definitely some of the bigger shows last year. We did some festivals with him, and Stibbs, who's part of the team, sick graph writer, sick producer, junglist, proper junglist.
Yeah, man.
And then nowadays we have some newer people on board, part of the team. So we've got like Gray and Crossy and A Little Sound and Bish, who all contribute doing music to the label or DJ with us, or new members to the team as well. And then there's loads and loads of other guys as well and girls that are now joining us. We've been working with Nikki Euphonique for years. She's like, a member of the team. Yourself even, bro, you've been putting stuff out over the years with us. And when
little bits of remixes here and there.
Yeah, do you know? So it's a really quite a wide extended family. There's 30, 40 people probably if we started trying to list everybody and who's part of what's going on kind of thing. And then there's always space for new people. So we've definitely had like newer artists that we've been working with and have started coming and playing with us a lot more. And we play their tunes a lot in our sets and stuff like that. So
you know what? Let's take it back for just a second. What motivated or what started where you guys said, you know what, let's do a thing called Born on Road? Because I think we missed that. How did that come about?
During these times when I was in Spain, I was with Adam Toughest, and we'd gone to the south of Spain to play on the south coast. Kind of like, not a massive thing, but we were playing on like a little beach bar type thing, all nighter. And Kelvin showed up. He was living there at the time. Very briefly met him. And was like, all right, mate, how you doing? And we all played. And that's where I first met him. And then a little while later, I was in London. Our friend, mutual friend, had come over, Kim.
Oh, right.
Had come over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big up high grade.
Big up. And had come over, and she wanted to go out. It was a heatwave night, and it was a Showtime rhythm like showcase with like some mad, crazy MC lineup on like a Wednesday night in a club in London.
Yeah.
We were like, and she was over, and she'd already knew our mutual friend from the south of Spain who brought us over, Joe. Joe was living in Spain now. Kelvin was like, I want to go to that dance. So he was linking up with Joe. We linked up with Joe. Kim came. So we all went to this show. And that was it. Basically met Kelvin that night. And then another time shortly afterwards, like we're in Bristol and like we're at Motion. I'm playing it in the tunnel at Motion. I think it's a Tokyo dub night, sound system night, and I'm playing in the tunnel, and we're out the back smoking a cigarette. Kelvin's with me, because I used to come to Bristol and I'd stop with where Kelvin was staying, wherever he was staying, I'd go and stop there. And it was like here in Bristol, I'd go and hang. So I'd come to Bristol and he's like, yeah, come stop. I got you. And then we went and played a gig. And out the back was a guy that I know, a drum and bass producer called Collide, who I'd been doing. So I'd been over to Belgium with and a few other places. And like at the time, Belgium scene was popping. The drum pop scene was really big out there. And they were still trying to push jungle out there. So I've been out there, met him, hung out with him. And then he was out there and this other guy, Lewis, in the smoking bit behind the, stage. And then basically like we're outside and they're like, yeah, we run a distribution company, blah, 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 drum and bass, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, cool. And Kelvin was like, jokes, yeah, we're starting a record label. Because he'd had a couple of ideas and we'd made some tunes a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was thinking about obviously what we'd do with this music and how we'd put it out. And he was joking with them. And I was like, yeah. And I'd had a couple of, we did Chopstick and I'd run a label with Benny called Pure Vibes previous and another label called Roots that I'd run at the same time we were talking about our labels, Lion Dubs and all of that.
Yeah.
So I'd had a little bit of experience doing it. And they were like, yeah, we're doing a digital distribution company because obviously it had all gone digital by this point anyway. And we're like, oh, sounds good.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, we find ourselves on the phone with them. Next thing you know, we had a record label. And we were putting out some of the earlier music that we'd done together on this record label as a bit of fun, but basically as a platform to outlet our music.
Yeah.
And then we just basically, I've always had this thing where like we didn't put so much out at the beginning because we didn't have as much stuff that we were really into that we really wanted to put out. But when something came along that we really liked, we put that music out. And we all, whatever that is. So as you mentioned way earlier, all styles. Yeah. There's not even tempo genre, like not even genre, you know. It's good
whatever
music,
you love.
We'll put it out there. If we think we can get behind it and put it out there, then that's it, and whatever we're feeling. And, and we're lucky these days because we're feeling a lot of music that's been coming through to the label and we're feeling the vibes and all the music that we kind of play out. It then comes out, we put it out. So there's a really strong connection between what we're playing out in the dance and stuff that comes out on the record label. And in terms of it, like, we're like, oh yeah, that one, really nice when we hear that on the rig or whatever. Definitely going to put that out, right? Because primarily it's dance music, isn't it? We like putting out dance music with DJs and people dance to our music. So it's like, even though a lot of it's streaming and a lot of the music is consumed more in people's headphones these days and on screens and stuff like that than it is in dances, even though it's totally consumed in dances, it's actually like much more people listen to it in all other capacities as well. But essentially everyone moves to it. When you're listening to your headphones, you're still moving to it or you're totally dancing to it. It's dance music, isn't it? So,
yeah, for sure. So how many years have you been doing Born on Road?
So it's our 10th anniversary this year.
Wow.
So
you see, I didn't realize it was that long because I would say the last 3 or 4 years, the gas on the pedal for you guys and just watching you guys, I got to be on a fly on the wall when I came down, when you guys were doing the Printworks clash. And that was amazing. And watching you guys put the dubs together, hearing the secrets. And listen, I really, really appreciate you guys trusted me because I was staying with ARIES and J-Man at the time. And, you've got me staying there and listen, it was very, very serious. Like everyone was taking it deadly serious. And obviously, like I knew some of the other people, but I was like, Kelvin said to me, he was just like, yo, you need to, right? But watching you guys put the dubs, I was like, dub wise, I didn't feel like anybody was going to have a chance, And I have heard from a lot of people that it's not you saying it, but I've heard from a lot of people that they thought you won the clash from a dub perspective. Tell us about that experience, that big Printworks clash that just happened not so long ago. Actually, when was that? A couple of years now.
It was about 5 years ago now.
No way, it was that long ago. My goodness.
So yeah, I'm a bit.
Time flies, man.
I think so. Yeah, we've had a crazy few years, so time's distorted, isn't it?
You know
So
what? That's right, because the pandemic, 2 years gone.
yeah,
You
you
know what I
got it.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, basically, we did the soundclash. We were asked and invited along. Fabio and Groove Rider put that together in their team at the time,
Yeah.
as a presentation, and they got this idea. Navi hooked it up. Navi contacted us and was like, "These guys want to do this," and I suggested that you guys should get involved. And we'd done a previous clash at Glastonbury, which with Shadow Demon, that had been really good soundclash stage. So it's kind of like we'd already had a go, and kind of had, and was done a few. We'd done some at Belter Festival as well and stuff. So we then were like, right, okay. And we looked at the teams and what were being offered, and it was crazy. We were offered in terms of like who the lineups were potentially going to be and stuff like that, and what could happen and stuff like so. And obviously Printworks was a fresh venue at that point, and was like, a new thing. Yeah, so we got invited along, and it was an absolute honor because all the legends of the scene were there. Loads of people, massive artists were at the dance that weren't even on the billings. They just came out to watch Clash, so to speak. And we took our team and we did our thing, which is, we did it the way that we do it, and everyone else did it the way that they do it. And, and it was good fun. It was really sportsmanship, very professional. I loved like that sportsmanship thing about it, where, everyone's into a different football team, but you all love football. So you'll joke about the football, but you're still the best of mates. Yeah. But you're on a different team. Do you know what I mean? It had that whole.
Well, it was funny. You guys were clashing your friends, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah. People we'd grown up and respected for years, and artists we'd followed, and people we'd made friendship relationships with. So yes,
work with on a regular.
The Ragged Twins were on the other team, and they're our friends, but they didn't mess around. They were saying how it was, bro. They rinsed us. Verbally was like it was harsh, but that's the whole culture and part of the game, isn't it? And part of the fun, because it was like, at the time it's Clash and we're serious, but afterwards it's like, yes, mate, you all right? Cool? Yeah, man. That's what is like such a good thing about it all, and was such a vibe. But obviously getting the opportunity to play with all these people, doing that in London, in front of all the legends, getting so far, it was close on the line with the winnings and getting, all that. So like for us, it was an absolute honor and pure respect to all of them. Do you know what I mean? Because it really kind of showed, a different side to who Born on Road are and what we do. And it was just like mega fun with the team as well. It was so cool.
You know what, too? It was interesting because it was such a generational clash in that, for those that don't know, there was a clash back in 94 and Kenny Ken became like the Jungle Sound Clash champion. So you had, when I was watching the comments, you had a lot of people like, nobody's going to beat Kenny, and, the banter. And so you ended up, right, even before the clash started, it was sort of like you ended up having like groups of fans, you know what I mean? Like people that were there because they thought Kenny, Potential, Remark are, and I don't even know. I think what was great about it was I think you guys shocked people. And I know that it was really good for you, because even when I watched the comments, a lot of like the older generations didn't even know, because you guys have been murking the newer generations, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people found out about Born on Road, and boy did they find out, because you guys ended up in the last rounds against Kenny, Remark, and Potential, right? All the other teams had been cut, right? So man, how did that feel when you got to that point where it was just like you and the other team? It must have felt high pressure or fun?
It kind of was high pressure, but everyone was doing their thing. We had what we did, we'd spent time on them dubs. We were there to do our business. We had a great bunch of MCs. We had Carousel, we had Solo Banton, we had Gardner, all different skilled in different ways and all, you know, and solos, you know, in the reggae culture, done a lot of clash, and he's serious about it. Do you know what I mean? So we were with everyone. So I didn't really get so much on that, like, really nervous energy. The nervous energy was probably before, in the prep time. Like you said, you came over and how serious we were. You know, we were on it because we were like, God, this is, you know. But we were lucky, and we got some really good dubs, and everybody brought their A game, and everybody managed to get different dubs through the line, and we got some, like, you know, like Becky Hill dub and some really big things.
When I heard that, I thought to myself, I was like, I don't know how they're gonna counter this. You know, that dub there.
And we had like protege dubs, and we were really like some quite big ones, and then bare of our friends. Some of the best dubs always are the ones of your friends that you know. And I
love that Darrison one.
Slewing, you know. So it was quite good, you know, like all those different ones, you know, like. And there was, the thing is, with the preparation for a clash like that, there was all the dubs that we didn't play.
I was going to ask you that. How many dubs?
All the dubs.
Were there a lot of things that you didn't play?
Probably 50%. We kind of went in probably with twice as many. So we had all the options. But once you played like the lighter ones, you can't go and play some heavy dubs and then go back to the more singy, mellower ones, really. It depends what tunes they are. But in the circumstance that we were in at that time, it wasn't about that. Because the thing is, with that type of clash as well, people were dancing, you know?
Right.
Some classes, people just stand about and forward. And so there was that crossover in terms of it being a
DJing
sound clash.
Yeah, you're DJing for the crowd to dance, but also clashing at the same time.
Yeah. So there was a little bit of that whole thing. And they did a good thing where they switched the room around, so they did it 2 ends. Do you know what I mean? You got different ends, so the crowd moved for the next set, and then the crowd moved again. So I like that, the fact that the dance floor, where you stood on the dance floor and everyone raved, would be different for that set. And then you go and, like, you know, because everyone might go to a rave and hold their spot for the night and be like, do you know what I mean? So that was pretty good as well. And we went down with a wicked team, loads of crew. We took a little bus down.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, we got loads of whistles and stuff that we gave to all our team. And, you know, we really went in. We had some friends dancing on stage. We went in, you know, and as many kind of ways that we could to make that, you know, to get the hype to, you know.
Yeah.
As you do, because everyone's got all their supporters, haven't they? And like, as I say, back to the football thing, it's a supporter thing. And you were saying that certain people already made their mind up before they went to the clash.
Oh, for sure. I felt that way as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's
they were there to rep their team, right? You know, this is our team. This is our squad.
Till the end. You know what I mean? Like, that's part of the fun and part of the culture as well, isn't it, mate? So
yeah.
So
you know what? You're right. I can't believe 5 years. Yeah, that pandemic really like messed things up. But
I think it was all right.
You guys had like a massive last couple of years, and a testament to that is, and I felt it coming because you know, Souped Up, Kings of the Rollers were doing their thing, and you guys were just setting up this Born on Road thing. And I'm seeing your calendar over the last couple of years. I looked at it and I was just like so proud and so happy just to see. It looks like thousands of dates, Emil. You know what I mean? And I don't even think that, I'm pretty sure you couldn't even fit everything onto the poster. How busy you are.
Yeah, something like that. We've always been DJing. I've actually been out DJing every weekend, but I think the difference now is the level of shows now.
Yeah.
We've played some shows recently and some stages we've never had the opportunity to play before. Like the actual main stage at Boomtown, like in a Born on Road capacity at a peak time, like last year was unreal.
I got to thank you for that, because we've actually done that together. And I mean, that's one of the highlights of my whole career is playing that.
Yeah, that was sick. That was, bro.
3 hours in the sun with how many people in front of us? Like with now,
there was like 10, 12K or something. Was there that day?
Yeah, it was.
And it was like most of the festival at the time, because the festival was a lot smaller then as well.
Yeah.
When we did that at Boomtown, and that was that Sunday afternoon. I think you come from Belgium.
Yeah.
And we did a full-on ragga jungle set. Some of our friends is like, I know that Jamie from Rumble particularly loves that
Yeah.
set. You know, he's like one of his favorite days in memory and stuff like that. Because
you don't hear
the
that kind of thing. And the sun came out for the first time in, I think, in the few days actually at the festival, right for our set. Now it was magical. But so I got to appreciate Jamie and everything Rumble in the Jungle does, for booking me and everything like that. But that was special with you, you know what I mean? And you got to go and do that with Born on Road recently, and it was so much bigger, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did a Saturday night show, and it was a lot of people there, bro. It was mad. It was we all DJ, but I was actually nervous. I got proper nervous, and I always get nervous, as we do. I'm sure you do. Some situations, for whatever reasons, the pre adrenaline kind of like vibes that you get. I've got to do a good job tonight. You know what I mean? And all that.
And it's also different when it's like concert, like when you've got so many thousands of people. Like it was different.
Almost overwhelming, bro. It was close. It was close, but I got my team around me, so it was really nice to go and do that. With Kelvin, with Josh, with Inja, who's been part of our history, with Spider, who's been part of our recent history as well, released on the label a bunch, and with Kara, who has been again doing lots of shows with us as well. So it was really nice to go out there with like not just one person. It's like a gang vibe in it, and then our team, and that was really special. And to see everybody play their music, so Josh playing his tunes and different things like that, Gray playing his pieces, and that is like, that's like, I love that. That's what it's about, because I've played my music for years, so a lot of people like listen to mine, and I've always appreciated when I go to a gig and I'm hearing my music play, but I actually really appreciate watching other people play their music these days as well, especially people that I know. And some of the best sets I enjoy these days are watching people perform like that, and the energy that they create on the dance floor. It's like definitely a thing, mate.
So I want to big up Inja. I know he's been doing his thing with Kings of the Rollers, who are massive, and then you guys, he's also doing this thing with Born on Road. So smart man. So big up Inja. Other question: Spider, where is he from originally? Was he from Birmingham?
Nottingham.
Okay. Yeah.
Midlands, but Nottingham.
Okay.
East Midlands.
Wicked. Yeah. I was always just curious about that. So, you guys have had a really, really busy time with the label over the last little while. You've really ramped it up. Loads of artists who are doing really, really well. I mean, Gray's killing it. Crosby, obviously Selected J-Man just stepped it up. Like, I mean, such a strong camp, and I know you're constantly bringing in new talent and so on. What's the plans? What's in the pipeline for both the label and for you as an artist in the future? What's coming up?
Well, it's our 10th anniversary, so we've got quite a few plans. We've definitely got some new music for the whole year. There'll be some album compilations.
Okay.
A presentation in that way, and then we're gonna do some label touring later. We've got a little party. I say a little party. We've got a party at Motion here in Bristol in March, which is the first main celebration of our 10th anniversary, and then later in the year we're gonna tour it out and go around and do a tour. So there's a few things in the pipeline, but they're the main focuses now. So some back catalogue reappearances, some older materials we're going to put out again, some newer updated versions, and then we've got a whole album of fresh material, and just an onslaught of all the artists. We've got a lot of material planned for the year.
So you guys are going to actually do a Born on Road album? Is that something? Oh wow. Yeah, like a crew one?
10-year kind of thing.
That's wicked, man. I'm looking forward to that.
With ourselves and friends and connected people to the label and stuff.
Yeah. And you know what? When we were setting up this interview, you were saying, ARIES hit me up and he's like, mate, we got to do this in the next couple of weeks because after this, it's just my calendar really starts. So this next year, you're going to be just as busy as you were last year.
Yeah, probably in some ways, probably, yeah, busy.
You might feel like a little bit busier even.
Some ways, yeah.
Well, I mean, you
Yeah,
know what?
different.
That's the way you want the trajectory to keep going up. I mean, the best label, that was Drum and Bass Arena, right? Was that
Yeah,
correct? So
yeah.
man, congratulations on that. We cannot just like slide past that. That is a big, massive accolade. You know what I mean? Because also too, like you're up against so many of these labels now are on such a prolific run. You've got, obviously Souped Up was just dominating there for a while, and just the amount of releases that, guys like V Recordings, Brian G, and all of his affiliated labels, and you've lined up had a big, massive 2 years as well. Like just the amount of music. So the fact that you guys managed it pulled off, and I mean, I was playing so much of your stuff, and because that's stiff competition, so it's amazing to win. Must be feel good, right? To win
It's
label of the
crazy.
year.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually mad. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Was there a ceremony, a award ceremony that you went to, or?
No, we were interviewed. We did a Zoom interview.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, at the time when they were doing the interview down in the place in London, we'd had a bunch of shows during the whole weekend. It was a Saturday, and it just would have made it ridiculous for the weekend and tiring. So we did it on Zoom.
Who's the newest artist that you brought into the camp? Just curious.
Okay, we just put out some stuff from Benny.
Oh, okay. Benny Page.
Recently. No, another guy called Benny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's from
Christmas. There's done bits. And then we got some stuff coming from 4K. Okay. We kind of had a little appearance some early in the year, little bits, but we got last year before. But we got a full presentation coming from him. We got some stuff coming from Artist Scuff, who's kind of lent towards more the ragga jungle, but it's like D&B crossover, pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to look out for that. Yeah,
bits. I think they're like all the bits, but yeah, definitely got some wicked full vocal songs on his. Yeah, there's quite a few different ones. We just put out Climate EP.
Yes.
A couple of weeks. That was the last release. Well, it wasn't the last release. The last release was actually Selector J-Man.
Okay.
We've done his EP with Ryder Shafiq.
Yes. Heavy EP.
5 track. Yeah. So it's a lot because just like, oh yeah, that one's out. Oh, then there's the next one, the 4. It's boom, boom, boom. But that's good. It's good because there's so much great music from everybody. The idea is to just try and get as much of it out. And because it's all different vibes and slightly different, everybody's got their own vibe that's on the label.
Yeah.
So, it's appealing to different people here, different people there. Some's doing really good online. So like on the listening on streaming platforms, some's popping off in the raves. Do you know what I mean? And everyone's getting, blends together with the tunes and them kind of vibes. Do you know what I mean? So
the level that you guys have been running the label at, I know that must be, with the promotion and getting everything ready. Do you find it tough with the DJing? Like, is it a hard balance? And is it something that you guys have thought about bringing someone else in to help with the label, or?
We do have people that help with the label.
Okay.
So Gold Dubs helps with the site label.
Big up Gold, yes.
Yeah, and A Little Sound helps us with the label, and we've got Zach, and who does a load of back end stuff with us, helps us with the label, and
beautiful.
Yeah, Ellie, who helps us with the label. So we've got quite a team around us at the moment.
Because that would be overwhelming,
roles and different things that we need to do.
Yeah,
like there's merch, people dealing with the merch and distributing the merchandise and all the manufacturing processes and things like that need to take place. And, because if we're just doing that, me and Calvin all the time, we're unable to do all the other bits. So it is definitely the case of we have more people now helping us with the different things that that they're on. So that's been really important. The last year is letting stuff go over to other people and help. Like we used to do all our own DJ bookings and yeah, don't do so much of those direct anymore. They're all through agent and stuff like that, which is different, but it's good.
So I want to say thank you so much for doing this with me. And
been great to speak to you, Marcus. Like we always, we could chat for hours, mate. We're on about
for
all
sure.
kinds of musical things, and we didn't, go into vinyl, go into this, go into that. Like, it could go on for days.
Any shout outs? You want to?
I got to shout out the full crew. I got to shout out Charlie. I think she looks after me, and got to big her up. My girlfriend Charlie, and I got to big up. Yeah, and I got to big up all the Born on Road team. I got to shout out to Kelvin, J-Man, everybody that I've mentioned through the journey. Got to shout out everybody, basically, all the Born on Road fam. And just got to big up all your listeners out there, bro.
So Born on Road coming soon to North America, man. So watch out for it, guys.
Yeah, 100. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So big up the Born on Road crew. Thank you so much, ARIES, man. And we'll be in touch.
Peace out, Marcus. Thank you, mate.
Bless.
Big up,
yeah, man.
Bless.
Easy.